Chapter 2. A Cloaked Stranger. When Daring Do finally arrived in the woods the next day, she saw some pony pacing back and forth in front of her humble abode. The tiny 2-story cottage had a yellow thatched roof and a low brown polka-dot chimney. It wasn't much, but it was home. For the few days a year she wasn't out searching for lost treasures and stolen amulets, at least. The main reason Daring Do liked the place was because it was unassuming. No pony would ever guess that a world-renowned treasure hunter lived there. No pony, apparently, except this stallion. The golden Pegasus scurried behind a nearby rock, narrowly avoiding the visitor's attention. She had enough experience to know that a random pony was not always a good sign. It could be sinister, some sort of trap. Naturally, Daring wasn't afraid of traps, but observing a situation first gave her the upper hoof. "Watch and learn," she always used to tell A.B. Ravenhoof. "Ponies give away more information about themselves just by existing than you could ever pry out of them." The cloaked pony knocked on the door again, this time a little louder. He was getting impatient. The stallion pushed his green velvet hood back to reveal an unruly golden mane, deep-set eyes, and broad features. His yellow coat was so grimy, he looked like he'd crawled through a gopher tunnel to get there. Clumps of mud and leaves clung to his mane. He smelled strongly of sweet-peppered pears, which was incongruous with his dirt-rumpled appearance. He frowned and trod over to one of the front windows. Daring Do craned to see his cutie mark. If she could catch a glimpse, maybe she could identify him as either friend or foe. Luckily, his green cloak kept bunching up and sliding into the arc of his back. When the velvet finally cleared away from his flank, Daring saw the mark was shaped like a yellow rectangle with black marks along one side. There was a ruler, the kind used in a classroom. Considering Daring Do's photographic memory for cutie marks, she knew instantly that she had never laid eyes on this pony before, which made him a wild card, a potential loose cannon. Not to be trusted, only to be observed. Maybe he was one of Dr. Caballeron's lackeys. The jilted Caballeron had never quite gotten over Daring's refusal to work with him as a team, searching for ancient relics and keeping all realms of Equestria safe from the evil designs of the gargantuan blue dog monster Ahuizotl. Now Caballeron took every chance he got to throw obstacles in Daring's path. If there was something Daring Do was searching for, it was guaranteed that Caballeron would be 2 trots behind her, picking up the clues left in her wake, and trying to make sense of it all so he could take the prize for himself. He needed her, but the feeling was not mutual. Daring Do worked alone, except under extremely rare circumstances. The rings of Scorchero were proof that much was true. But who was this mysterious, bedraggled stranger standing in front of her secret woodland cottage? His odd clothing and distinct foreign features implied that he had traveled quite a distance to find her. Daring Do recalled meeting a group of ponies with similar style cloaks on a journey to the Tenochtitlan Basin in the southern latitudes. Daring Do had been en route for weeks on her way to ransack the camp of the Quetzalcoatl Empress, hoping to stop her dark magic from ever controlling the Amulet of Atonement again. However, the landmark Daring had chosen happened to be a wandering tree, and she had unwittingly been traveling farther from her destination every day. Luckily, 3 young mares from a village called Luisitano, down near the Appaloosan Trail, had found her. They noticed a distinctive tree dancing in the distance, and guessed it had found a target on whom to play its cruel joke. Daring Do was embarrassed at her ignorance of the species of tree, but she thanked them for their kindness. Her ponies had also been generous enough to guide her to the Empress, even though it put them at great potential risk. No pony wanted to go near the Empress, for she was known to bewitch random passerby and use them for her dark and twisted plots. With a sinister look, this blonde pony could have been one of the noble residents of the same region, but he was still untrustworthy until proven otherwise. Daring Do sensed something was off, especially with the smell of those peppered pears. "Daring Do!" he bellowed into the clearing. His voice fell flat against a dense thicket of trees. "If you are anywhere in the vicinity, and I hope you are, it would do you well to visit the village Marapore before it's too late." He turned and looked right at her hiding rock, his eyes boring into it as if it were transparent. Daring Do sucked in her breath. His voice was heavy with regret. "It may well be too late already." "Something to help you study," the pony said, bending down to the porch. He sighed, lingering for a few more moments, his eyes searching the trees. "I wish I could explain more, but we're going to need the brilliant mind of yours if you're going to save us from him. Please, come save us, Daring Do." Then he galloped off into the forest with his golden mane flowing and cloak streaming out behind him. Study hard? Save them? What in the Unicorn Mountain Range was he talking about? Daring emerged from her hiding place and trotted to her front door, her brain working overtime trying to make sense of the newfound puzzle. "Oof!" Daring cried out as something on the stoop caught her hoof. The pony could hardly believe her eyes when she saw it. She had just stumbled over an item she'd been trying to find for years. It was more precious to her than any gem-studded relics or magical healing crystal spheres. It was a book. Chapter 3, Brought to Light. Daring Do smoothed the leather spine and slid Encyclopedia Equestria, Rare Gems and Relics of the Known World, Volume E through F, onto the shelf for the 12 other volumes she had already had in her collection. "Together at last," she marveled out loud. As far as she knew, her books were the only surviving copies of the ancient texts. Up until now, Daring's set had been incomplete. She had started to believe that she'd never find the elusive volume E through F. But here it was, in perfect condition. The books seemed to take on a new life now that they were reunited. Each individual volume was a different, vibrant shade of the rainbow. The new edition was the color of a fiery daybreak, the last shade of orange before turning into an effervescent yellow. It bridged the color gap between the familiar volumes, the Parmesan hue of volumes C through D, and the bold canary shade of volumes G through H. Each spine bore 2 letters of the alphabet. The golden swirls and stars that adorned them danced as an excited family joined together once more. Daring Do stepped back in awe for a moment before hungrily snatching the tome back from the shelf. She held it in her hooves reverently. This could be the key to everything, the answer to the great mysteries of Equestria and beyond. She must have looked in 100 libraries all over the world for it. Why had the stranger been so eager to give it up? Daring knew enough to be wary of such gifts, but she couldn't help herself from wanting to accept this one blindly. "Come to Daring," she cooed, and her stomach rumbled in response. Food could wait. Daring Do took off her tan pith helmet and threw it across the room. It landed on an old, neglected typewriter on a roll-top desk in the corner. She sank down in her favorite squashy green armchair and slid on her red horn-rimmed reading glasses. Daring gingerly opened the hardback and smoothed over the inside cover with her hoof. A bookplate had been pasted onto the left side. It simply said, "From the Library of G.R." A clue to the mysterious stallion's identity, perhaps? Who was the soul who had given this priceless book from his own collection? And more importantly, why? Maybe he was trustworthy. Maybe she should have spoken with him, especially after that desperate cry for help for the town of Marapore, wherever that was. Daring flipped through the pages frantically, looking for more answers. It was difficult to do without even knowing the questions. Still, she couldn't devour the information on the pages fast enough. An hour passed. Daring had gotten sidetracked reading about something called the Elements of Harmony. Then she noticed that the page in the F's was dog-eared. Her hoof made its way down the old yellow parchment. Fauna, feldspar, Flankara relics? Great Luna! Daring stood up in shock. She had completely forgotten about the Flankara relics. They were referenced in the U to V volume in the section Vesuvius Mount. It didn't say what they were, but it did say that they were very powerful, and to C volume E through F, Flankara relics. She had always wondered what they were, and now she was about to discover what great power they actually bore. Daring felt as if the earth were moving beneath her hooves. Flankara relics, consisting of a staff, a sword, and an arrow. These 3 magical items are known to provide the most powerful protection in the world when in close proximity with one another. Alternatively, the relics can be arranged in a 6-pointed star formation, allowing the possessor to undo any magically inflicted injury. Believed to be created by a great wizard, rumored to have been found by the stalwart stallion of Naples on his travels with the Royal Navy. He gifted the relics to the tri-corner villages of Lusitano, Marapore, and Ponipe as a means of protection against the highly active volcano Mount Vesuvius. See volume U through V. Known as the Vesuvian Hex, can only be used once. Legend says it must be witnessed by a captive audience and a golden pedagogue. Owing to the single-use nature of the spell, this theory remains unproven. See also protection spells, weapons. Daring's heart began to beat faster. It always did when she was about to connect the dots. She raced to the bookshelf and pulled out the U through V volume, swiftly locating the section on the active volcano Mount Vesuvius. Aha! Daring shouted as she reviewed the text, which told her that the mountain erupted decennially, and this very year was the 10th since the volcano had last showered its surrounding areas with hot lava. I knew it! Vesuvius is said to erupt any day. She felt satisfied with her detective work and worried at the same time. Whenever some pony showed up at her door with a desperate plea for help, it was a given that the mission was going to include some sort of treasure hunt. It was Daring Do's specialty, after all. But this was something more. If his blatant call for help wasn't enough, the rumpled visitor had made things more clear with his gift. He wanted her to read about the Flankara relics and their life-saving powers. If the ponies of the Tri-Corner villages needed Daring Do now, there's only one logical conclusion. The Flankara relics were in grave danger. And from the sound of it, so were the residents of Lusitano, Marapore, and Ponipe. Without their magical protection from Mount Vesuvius, what was going to stop the volcano from erupting and destroying every pony in the 3 towns? Daring shuddered at the thought of it. There's only one choice. Even though she'd just gotten home, it was time for the great Daring Do to go on another quest. There wasn't even time for dinner. She just hoped she could make it in time.